Hello and welcome to my webinar on corporate startups. And today we're going to be discussing the 12-month process. Last week I held a short webinar on Corporate Startups 101. We covered very generally what it is as a practice and how is it different than startups itself, and how is it different than what marketing does. What do you need to have in place to do so? Today we're going to be talking about how I work with this in a 12-month process. Is it always 12 months? No, it could be 9. Could it be 6? Perhaps not. But I want you to understand that there are stage gates in this process. And the first clue there is I'm talking in multiples of 3. Why? It is a corporate startup. So you are talking about quarters and how you get capital injections or allocations or go no-goes at every quarterly business review. And that's why we're in the world of corporate startups, and I want to break it down to you on what I do. Thank you for joining. Let's get started. It feels a little bit like this when you're building a corporate startup. You feel like you're changing the corporate company. You feel the weight. You feel the excitement. And the reality of it is you've been licensed to play with really cool stuff. Now you got to find a way to help the company make money. And that's why I call the 2 plus 9 to 12-month build. The 2 first months are the ones where you're going to identify what you're going to do. The 9 to 12 is where you build, as if you were building a startup, a company, within the parameters of the corporate company. We're going to focus on every single of these phases, and we're going to look at what happens and how does it feel. Okay? I look forward to your questions at the end. In the beginning, we start with the question, we need to innovate and define ideas that serve our customers of the future. This is what you're looking for. What are you doing? You're discovering, you're defining the direction. You're looking at what is my innovation scope? How can I get a venture started? You are pre-business model here. You're just trying to understand, do I have a direction to go forward with? And then, if you get a go from the corporate company's management, you are going to go. You're going to set the milestones, the KPIs. You are going to define a team, and you're going to project manage it phase by phase. The first one being validation. This is the part where you're going to tell the company that idea I had actually is validated. Then we're going to go to the second phase of building, or the third phase in the larger scope of things, which is, will we be able to build this? Do we have the technology? Do we need more time or less time? Technology will be a big player in whatever you build. And since you are in a corporate company, and if you're not using the systems they have already, you might need more time. But this is the third phase. And then launch. Go to market. That takes another 3 months. You need to understand how you're going to launch. What are your budgets? What is the conversion rates you want to bring back? I know this is a lot for a first slide, so let's just go and have a little bit of fun and talk about where are the directions, where do we want to go as a company, where are you going to take the company if you're building the venture for that corporate company. We're going to validate this problem solution fit. We're going to test, and find the right technology, and we're going to get ready to go to market. The goals are right there on the bottom. License to build, reason to build and play, and get ready for integration if it is required. I will come back to that later on. Okay, first step on building your corporate venture is, what will we build? What do we have to do? First of all, we have to have one common goal. We need to understand what we can build and beat time to market. Your forte that you need to latch on if you're building a corporate venture is you're finding new business models for the company. You're doing something different that marketing would do. You have a business link, but you're there to provide an opportunity for revenue at scale. So let's just assert that that's what you need to do. Because otherwise, you will be in the loophole of finding amazing innovations out there, but not tied to finding a goal, which is beat time to market for revenue. And that's something that I covered last week very much, which is there's 2 roles for innovation here. On your left-hand side, you have the role of innovation is to find new revenue-generating business models. right? Outside of what the company is doing. The other role for innovation is to explore and identify great new technologies, products, and solutions. I am talking about the one on the left. I so heartily believe that in corporate venturing, in finding new business models, new revenue, we need to use innovation to find new revenue. Is there a role for innovation to find new technologies in companies? Absolutely. But again, we will have a mandate to build a business. So let's stick to the one where we find innovative ways to find revenue. If you want to find out more about this topic, I mentioned it last week. This is me on the left-hand side there, interviewing 4 accomplished entrepreneurs. The link is on the bottom there. And when I was collaborating with these 4 entrepreneurs, I was able to understand that all of them have a different view on how innovation can be applied for revenue. So if you're interested, the link is there, or we can post it later in the chat. The second thing you need to agree is that there is one way of working when you're trying to find these answers, and that goes for velocity. That goes for speed, discipline, direction. You will have to let people go in your process, but you need to have the discipline of we're finding new revenue business models. Our direction is revenue, and we're going to go as fast as we can. And there's one unspoken contract people are expected to do. You do not get hooked on one idea or direction. If you slow things down, you will be left behind. And if you hate presenting, don't ever do it. So these are the unspoken rules which you start out with. And it feels a little bit like this. You're trying to find a business model. There's possibly something there. You want to go back to the CEO or the seniors at a corporate company, but there's nothing there. There's no business model yet. So you're discovering, you're going as fast as you can. And so you kick off. You kick off and you try to understand, why would this company innovate in the first place? These innovation triggers will be tied to revenue, and you will be looking for synergies. What synergies do I have in the company that I can use to find my venture? What areas or markets do I need to explore? And how do I shortlist this? That is your kickoff. I actually surveyed 40 different corporate brands with the ICT Hub using this template from Bundle. And we looked at, why do people innovate? Well, the corporate companies told us the triggers they have are to reinvent their business model, to boost growth, to boost their brand image, and to increase sales. These are good enough reasons for you to understand that people will choose revenue-driving triggers for innovating. So we now understand that they have these, so we do a deep dive. This is the part, and remember, you're in those first 2 months. You're trying to discover where you need to go. So you're looking at trends, market size, the players in the market, the technologies in the market, the value chains. How do you make money in this market? The customer journeys, the opportunity fields. It is a lot. These are 2 months where you need to come together as teams, and you need to break away and work on these specific tasks. What are the trends in the market? And make sure, are we finding where we need to go? And then you create a value proposition sprint. A lot of you have heard about this. There's a lot of it online on how you can create your own value proposition sprint. Concept developments. So what concepts, what offers are we coming out? Are they service? Are they product? What are the features? Is there a feasibility that this business will ever create this minimum value proposition? And shortlisting them to then having a second sprint, which is going to ask experts. Involve experts before going back to your corporate CEO or corporate team, leadership team, and asking them to build something. You have to have some expert validations in there. And of course, a business case. If you don't know how you're going to make money with this, well, nobody else will. So make sure that you're putting all this together, and then you build a beautiful pitch. Right? You build a beautiful pitch and you want to show there is a market opportunity. We've identified this. And this was the first 2 months. You pitch, and if you get the go, it feels amazing. But at the moment, all you've created is a beautiful presentation where you've researched the market. You've really understood that the business I am today has enough synergies to be time to market by creating this business model. And that is the basis of finding your direction. And those are, let's say, a 2-month track that you need to do before you embark on a venture. It feels amazing because you basically just asked, can I build this? They will say yes. You will say in what conditions you need people. Do you need teams? Do you need there are certain things you need, and that's what I'm going to focus on next. What parts go well together when you start building this corporate venture? This is part 2. Now, so it becomes less confusing. At the moment, you've just identified something. This is part 2, but this is actually part 1 of building your startup, your corporate venture. And the first thing you're going to ask is, okay, how can we build this? Yes, we're going to be trying to be using customer data. The advantage of having a corporate venture is you have customers. There are customers, and you want that data to license every decision. This is why corporate ventures always follow the validation data that you have at your disposal, customers. But now you have people normally coming from the corporate company or from different departments, or even sometimes external consultants. You don't know what everybody can bring together. So the first 2 months can be a little bit rocky, so you need to have a few people who know what they're doing. So first things first, get a room in the corporate company. You will need to spend time together. You will need to spend time at the corporate company as well, because if you're not from the company and you are an external consultant, you'll need to understand how things tick and who can give you permission for what you need next. Get your modem. Get your own modem. I'll say this again, get your modem, because you do not want to rely on the corporate Wi-Fi for you. If you are a team of people that come together for 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, every day, externals, internals, you need to make sure that the last thing you're spending time on is, what's the Wi-Fi password? Get your modem. Second, get an email account that works for everyone. If you need to wait for procurement and licensing to get everybody emails based on the contracts the company already has, you're spending and wasting time. Get something that does not hurt IT, but that allows you to get working. I normally gravitate to Gmail, and it's got cloud, and you can just start working together. Is it there at the end of a venture? Perhaps not, but we need to get started. We need to get working and have a focused way to communicate with each other. And start doing. Critics, talkers, there's room for discussion, yes, but the whole aspect and time frame of building a venture every 3 months getting somewhere means you will have to do, and do a lot. And the best way for that for me is using online boards. There's Airtable, there's Trello, there's many tools out there. You need to start getting people under to do, done, doing, and just start organizing the work. And governance. Just make sure the company knows what you're doing. If you're building a corporate venture, you've had license now to play and find a new business model, but you want to make sure the company knows. And so with that, it's always key to have someone, a senior stakeholder in the company, who knows at all times how you're progressing. Yes, there are quarter business reviews where you present every quarter, hey, we moved along here, we moved along there, but you need to make sure that somebody else in the room believes in you, has a vision about you, and is able to advocate what you're doing. And it feels pretty much amazing. I have no idea what this clip is about. I have no idea how this man is flying on a piece of cardboard in the desert. But all of a sudden, if you set this up and you do it in a week, you've already started beating time to market internally in the company. So just make sure you do things accordingly and you're ready to go with that team and ready to do these set tasks in your first 3 months. I'm going to go one by one, left to right. Benchmarking, the desk research. Does it take time? Yes. Can you be doing it forever? Yes, you can. But it's important that people know what's in the market. Interviews. I normally go for around 30 or less interviews because you need to get into people's timetables. What am I talking about? I'm talking about really discovering what are the problems people have. Interviews, the quality research. What are the friction points? With that, you want to start working on your business model. I'll come back to business model in a second, because with the interviews, you can create a library of solutions. And then you go quanti. You want to go in and ask a large number of potential customer groups, what do you think of these solutions? So you go from the interview, identify the problems, you identify your library of solutions and you ask them, what do I do? The business model starts getting a little bit of shape here because you start understanding of your solution going top down. What is your addressable market? How many people would adopt this or fit the description of the solution you're trying to provide? Ask people, does this fit your brand? This is important, but make sure marketing knows what you're doing, which is, okay, now that I have a solution the company could provide to the market, it is this brand. Could they win at doing that? Start faking it till you make it, which is start understanding who your potential customer would be with all this data and develop your value proposition. If you have this in mind, if you think of what we've done in the first 2 months, which is identify the direction, we now have what is meat on the bone. We've been out there. We looked at all the players doing this. We looked at what our customers have problems with. We proposed a few solutions. We've ranked the solutions. We understand who our customer set can be. We understand the size of the market. It is basically your presentation 2.0. But now, you have data in this slide of customers saying, I would buy that. If you go, no-go after 3 months, and if you tell anyone in the C-suite position saying, my customers want this, and they would be willing to pay for it, it's a little bit like this puppy. Who doesn't want a puppy? And it could be full of mud, which is a nuisance, but nonetheless, it's a puppy. And your customers are saying they would pay for it, you're probably going to get a go at this point. And if you get a no-go, you've learned. You've learned that your venture probably is not set for your brand, for your customers. You can then dig deep in that type of valuation. But let's say we're moving forward. And so you spend these 3 months and everything is going smoothly, but this is the time where I need to introduce the giant hairball. As I learned from a dear friend and colleague of mine who introduced this idea to me, which is this book by Gordon MacKenzie, The Corporate Fool's Guide to Surviving with Grace, is the giant hairball, is the corporate company. And with time, you need to learn how not to get into the hairball, into the company, because you are a venture, but to gravitate around the hairball. And with that in mind, there's a few things which you will encounter. First of all, scrap it but control it. I mean, scrap IT but control IT. You do not want to get IT on the wrong side of your team, but you also don't want to depend on all the platforms. So make a very clear map of what are the things and interdependencies you have and what you could do alone. Going back to the email example, it's very easy to set up an email. Make sure that you're using it in a controlled, contained manner. Don't tell everyone. Just make sure your team is able to communicate with it. So control what you can. Measure accurately but generously. On all your predictions, the reality is you do not have all that customer base your corporate company does. So you're going to be very generous about your business case. So try to be accurate according to the solution you're putting in the market. What is that market size? And then be generous about how much you could capture in your customer base. If you have questions with that one, I'm also able to speak about that too. Now, be the agency, don't hire one. There's probably people in this webinar from agencies. I myself worked in agencies for 9.5 years. One of the proof points of speed would be that you do not need an agency to do your surveys, your questionnaires, your logo, your websites, your tests. You do not need them. That is validation skills that your team should have and that you should perfect as a team to be as fast as you can. There will be a role for agencies in the go-to-market plan. So let's say you got the go, the puppy was great, you can go now. Now you need to build this. To be honest, this part gets hard because now you are really accountable for bringing the money back that you said you would. And so the only way you're going to do this is by testing. You can test with customer control groups, friendly user tests, asking marketing, asking employees. You can also test with customers. That will depend on the corporate company you're in. That will depend on how marketing and legal are ready to support you with these set groups. However, with other employees, it is often the case that you are always able to test things. Are you getting unbiased feedback? It depends. If you're looking for unbiased feedback on the technology, yes, you will get unbiased feedback. People will tell you if it works or it doesn't. If you want feedback on whether this is correct for the brand to have as a solution, no. You won't get unbiased feedback from employees. Just putting that out there. But a friendly user test with a number of people, sometimes you can even go FFF, friends, fools, and family, who can help you to be able to test your solution. You're testing your solution, and if there is technology required, you need to develop a vendor criteria. Why? Because if you will have to sign off a new technology, perhaps not in the current IT stack of the corporate company, you will have to come up with a reason why this player in the market is better than other player in the market. And that's where you go back to the benchmark studies. So I didn't just do it because it's nice to have and you need to have it, because it serves a purpose along the line. And you test for 3 months. It should be enough for you to understand, what does this product as an MVP look like in the market? And now you need to get a go, no-go with commitments. This is where you're going to say, I now understand with the product I have that top-down funnel in the business model that I could capture is actually a very thin funnel, because I want to make a commitment that I will convert sales to the company. And it feels a little bit like this. All of a sudden, your bravado is still there to build this corporate startup, but it's a big commitment. You've just said, I will sell this to X number of your customers or of new customers. And you did a lot of testing. Now, remember in the beginning where I said 2 plus 9 to 12 months? The 9 to 12 is exactly this bar. This is the buffer. This is where you said you're going to commit, and then you start finding out technology is not easy, and customer adoption is not easy either. So you need a little bit more time. And that feels a little bit something like this. You got to appear it's business as usual, but there's not a lot happening. Do you sit back and relax when testing is happening? No, you monitor the tests. But you're doing vendor criteria, you're looking at your business model. There's not a lot of variation at the moment. So just so you understand, technological buffers require dedication. You cannot shut down, but they're not the most fun things that could happen, because you will find hiccups. And at this point, we go back to hairballs. What do you need to do? Well, first of all, make legal your CMO. So find someone in the legal department from the get-go, really, but at this point, really make them understand that everything that you're trying to put out there requires legal to say yes or no. So they are pretty high up on your agenda in terms of starting to make this product a reality. And then we move into the third phase. Third phase if you're building the startup, fourth phase if you did that pre-track of identifying the direction, which is you need to put out a go-to-market strategy. Now, there's 2 reasons why I put this clip here. The first one is, a lot of people in the company will disagree with what you're doing, and marketing will have a very strong opinion on how that go-to-market strategy should be. So stay together and be a little bit arrogant about your idea. The second reason is, you need to stay together because these are probably the last 3 months you will be working on before launching your product. And some people in your team will start getting itchy feet. They will start worrying, where's my next job? Where am I going to go? And so in these 3 months, you need to stay together and do everything you can in your go-to-market strategy. You need to have the bottoms-up plan out in your business model. You need to have a campaign, a media plan. All the UX, UI needs to be done. Sales provisioning. If you're selling a product, where are you going to house it? Who's going to do the post-sales support? And is legal alongside every step of the way of what you're planning to do. Along that line, you see the HR bar pop up. What happens here? So this is where conversations get tough Because yes, you're going to launch, people are working at super speed, but some people will start wanting to move departments, move jobs, or you'll have to hire people. And trainings should start as close as possible to the launch date, as soon as you know that your product can come out. I am here today on a specific project. And at this point, you need to start controlling the skeptics. Again, the people who say, you are not going to be able to launch this, you have a problem in the brand doing this, you will just have to, number 2, commit with a smile. And whatever you do, do not give up the core team. If you're a team lead or not, try to keep that team together. It is a matter of success in all ventures, of seeing that the people who are there for the journey are the people who really understand the role they can have in the company. And you need those believers. So to review what we talked about here today, it's a lot, and it's not easy to give you this through a webinar. It's hard to be interactive with it, but first part, we validate a direction. 2 months, a beautiful presentation saying, hey company, you have these synergies. Here's a way that you can find new business models. We're going to validate what we just said. Speak to customers, do all those tasks. We're going to do our top-down business model. We're going to do all the qualitative and quantitative surveying that we need to do to say customers will pay for this and this is what they want as a solution. Then we're going to test. Testing. What are you doing again? You're looking at who are the vendors, how does it work, what are the problems, what do we need to fix, and okay, I am ready to understand how many people I could sell this to, moving me into being go-to-market ready. Not just develop the go-to-market plan, but develop it with a customer set and a commitment to sell in mind. And that's where you launch the product. It's a long journey. And throughout the whole process, we're talking 9 months at least here, you've really fought hard. Some ups and downs, but at one point, boom, you launch. Is it that amazing? It is. It's in fact really amazing to do corporate startups. You really feel that these business models can be a new business department or an external venture, but they really, really, really give everyone the opportunity to believe that the company embraces innovation for the purpose of revenue. Now, the way working evolves throughout time from having big groups sitting around discussing, brainstorming in the beginning, where are we going to go, who can help, to really getting dirty and learning skills. So you will go from a big team to a small team, and people will have to really extend their skill sets beyond what they do today. So make sure that people are also ready for that. Today, the way the model works very much is through entrepreneurs. These are a series of entrepreneur interviews, entrepreneur stories to be exact, that I did with Bundle on understanding what do entrepreneurs do. There is today a rise of entrepreneurs as the stakeholder and the client in the corporate company. And it's really interesting to understand how they embrace innovation, how they look at innovation for revenue, and how they consistently try to find new business models for their companies. They own this. They're the stage gate owner. What happens next? They give you access to the stakeholders in the company. They're licensed to operate the OPEX and CAPEX of your venture. They co-own any workshop. They sign off the business case, and they're ambassadors of the innovation agenda. Today, the business model also works with a venture builder. So the entrepreneur who comes in or is in the corporate company who has skills of marketing, business, and design, and entrepreneurial experience to understand how do these frameworks work? How do I develop a value proposition and validate all based on data? How do I develop a business case? How do I find the criteria and identify an MVP that needs to be developed? And how do you recruit for a startup environment throughout the process and at the end of the process? Again, as I said last week, to me, corporate startups, they beat time to market if you understand you're innovating from within. You're using synergies the company has to beat time to market. It is born with a business link, and it increases customer loyalty because you're offering, through validated data of the customers, new solutions you can bring to market. It breathes the DNA of the corporate company because you're already governing on a quarter-by-quarter basis. And lastly, it's ignited by the top talent of the company. So HR will embrace the fact that you're bringing in new skills and you're building something which is exclusive to the company, by the company, and to find new customers. That was me. I'd like to thank you. Oh, there's a little bar there. I'd like to thank you for listening. It's a longish webinar. It's one that I promised would be 20 to 30 minutes. It is about how I build corporate startups today. And with that in mind, I'm going to turn to see if I have any questions on my YouTube. I have a question here from Nina. Thank you, Afonso. That part's nice. Thank you. What is your personal favorite success story from a corporate startup? Wow, so last week I showed a slide of many corporate companies who are doing corporate startups out there. Of course, I'm biased towards the ones. I have a question here from Nina. Towards the ones that I worked on, because I learned a lot from them. I guess, and I'm going to be a little bit very honest on why I do what I do. To me, the best corporate startups are the ones that reignite talent in the company. I was, for 16 years, a corporate employee and very happy. But I would have been happier if I had been involved in ventures at the company. If I would have been involved in finding new business models in the company. Working on the new, the great, the cool, but working towards goals as well, revenue-driven goals. So I would think that all the ventures that have reignited talent in the company are amazing. To think, for example, of a department that I've been researched and I've met, which is at Danone. They have an amazing innovation department looking for new products for Danone. Are they going way far beyond the core of their business? Perhaps not, but I really find that there's a lot of talent being reignited through that venture. And there's many out there. I can come back to this question and maybe post a few names, but do go back to my last week's webinar where there was a number of corporate ventures. While I wait to see if there's another question, I'd like to answer a question I had last week. Did you ever get pushback from senior management on innovation topics? The answer is yes. The second part of that question was, what do you do? You go back to your synergies and you find, have you gone too far beyond the core of what that company does? Many times, in one specific example I remember very well, I was given the go to validate. I was given the mandate to speak to customers, to retrieve data, to identify the direction for the venture, and still it was deemed to be too far. Why? I was, in fact, not using enough synergies from the company. So if you ever have to wheel your way back into the core of that company, use synergies more and more of the company. What am I talking about? Assets, stores, people, departments, tools, technologies. Bring it back. I'm trying to see if there's any additional questions. Okay, with that in mind, I'd like to thank you for being part of this webinar today. Please feel free to email questions. That is my LinkedIn address there. And I look forward to meeting you, to getting to know your thoughts. I hope it was somewhat clear what I was trying to convey today as a message. And I look forward to speaking to you again. Thank you very much.